Theologies. Brought to you by the High Ground Network.
Hi, I'm Ross, and welcome back to Theologies.
DocG.
Today is WinOlogy.
WinOlogy. Once again, we have fantastic Dr. Terry Gemas here. You know who's not here today.
Who's that?
The sweet.
Where's he at?
Where'd you send him?
I sent him to a dairy farm that milks emus. Told him we were moving our office there. He's going to be pretty. Those things kick hard is what I've been told. So we'll see how that one goes. But today we're talking about WinOlogy. And Terry, when you and Ross were talking before I came down here, you mentioned 3 out of the gate. And it's really just, it's not about winning teams and winning dynasties. It's about the whole concept of what a win is, right?
Right. Yeah, it's so it came to me the other day. I threw that guy out at you guys, and you guys seem to respond pretty well to it.
Yeah,
But I mean, your WinOlogy, you can go in any direction on this. But I was thinking about some great wins, great victories, if you will, and maybe transcended time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be something you might say, hey, I remember when that happened.
You have ones you go back to. And you have ones that are referred to, right?
Absolutely.
The ones that are kind of like, Chariots of Fire. Like that's what happened. I love the movies that are being made now about Jesse Owens and winning the Olympics right there in front of Hitler. Like how amazing was that, right?
There you go. There's one that transcends. Transcends. Just life, really.
Well, and you, as being a guy that's involved in healing athletes, you've been really closest for. So you were at Miami when they won their national championship. You were at UNLV when we won it. Yep. Yeah, when they won the national championship.
Yeah.
So what about wins? What about the subject made you want to talk about it?
Well, one particular win kind of sticks out in my mind, and it actually to this day it still affects me. And then I guess we can jump into it. It's way back in the, I was listening, what reminded me, I was listening to your hockeyology.
Oh, yeah.
With Mike Valley.
Mike Valley, yeah.
I love listening to him. And I remember, so I started thinking about this, and one of the things that stands on my mind is the 1980 U.S. hockey team.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is it, the Miracle on Ice?
So it's a Miracle on Ice, and this will be good for you, Ross, because I know you've heard about this. But Clint and I think lived it. I mean, I don't know how old you were at that time, but it was 1980, so January 1980, February 1980. Okay,
I was -5, so
I was 13.
I was grounded. I heard it happening in the den, but. There's Clint reading another book.
Wait, were y'all listening to it or watching?
Well, here's the thing.
We had TVs in there.
Well, this is the thing. In Garland, they had TVs.
In Garland, we had TVs. This was Arkansas.
Oh, this is Arkansas, though. Okay. So you have to put yourself in that position for the younger people in the audience here. And that is, back then you had 3 main channels.
Right.
Cable was just kind of starting to come out. ESPN, for example, was only a year old at the time. So
and there was incredible tension too. I mean, this is like Cold War.
Absolutely.
The malaise. America wasn't feeling great right around then. We had Iran. We had a hostage, the Iranian hostage.
Yep.
So
keep going.
I'm
listening to you.
The context was going on. Magnum PI hadn't come out yet. That premiered in 1980.
That's your one Magnum PI reference you're going to get.
Happy Days was going off the air just about.
That's sad.
That was sad. Yeah. We jumped the shark by then, I think.
Yeah,
so, right?
Which is amazing. Talk about a win.
Yeah.
So we beat the Russians.
So like Clint was alluding to, you set the stage, and it was a whole socioeconomic and worldwide thing going on. Our country did not. Fuel lines, inflation. We were sitting in lines to get gas, like a mile long.
And your license plate dictated when you went.
Right.
Right.
Like even or odd. My dad and my mom and dad were telling me about that.
Yeah.
Things were bad, and just before the Olympics, or the summer before, the Russians invaded Afghanistan, and it was basically just kind of a slap in the Americans' face, like, we could do whatever we want. We'll do whatever we want. And back then it was the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And it was before the wall came down. So there was a lot of divide. Like Clint was saying, Cold War, and they were really kicking our butt.
They were dominant. I mean, they were a superpower on the ice. There wasn't anything close to him on the ice when it came to hockey.
I will say this though: when we had Mike Valley in,
Yeah.
right, we did hockeyology. He brought up the Russians this many times, 0.
Yeah.
Of course.
And,
Well, since then.
have we just completely eclipsed
No,
that?
it's different though. You got to remember, it's different times now. Back then, every country stayed separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And behind the Iron Curtain, they played their. Really, they were their professionals. They were by definition, they were part of the Red Army.
They were military.
They were military, but they played hockey. That was their
That was
job.
their military job.
Gotcha.
And it
Like
wasn't
the
like
MLS.
now where, okay, you got some Russians that play for the Dallas Stars, and then when the Olympics come, they go back and play for Russia. No, you were separate. So you didn't know how good they really were other than when you played against each other internationally. Now, on our end, we only played amateurs, true amateurs, college kids.
True.
So every sport, not until 1992 did we actually use our own professionals in any sport. So it's a totally different. So what I'm about to tell you and explain to you, it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
It'll never happen again in our lives because it's not the same way anymore. You have
It'd be like a high school team playing a college team. It'd be like the best, a good Texas high school team playing Alabama.
Well, I know that the Russians were kind of notorious for paying their players, or even their Olympic players, to kind of disregarding that amateur status,
Well, there was no
amateur from their
There
standpoint.
was no.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And
I mean, they had a day job as, like you said, they were part of the Red Army.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they weren't. Yeah. So you had a Russian team that had won the previous 4 Olympics and had some ungodly record, like 101 in their last 101 games or something like that.
yeah.
They would come over, and they would, on a routine basis, play our NHL All Stars and beat them like 8-1.
Oh wow.
7-0.
Wow.
I mean, they had the supposedly at the time the best goalie that was ever that ever played the game, the best forward and the best defenseman that ever played.
There was a
the
gap
game
between
ever.
our pros and
that's right.
their Olympic team.
Okay, so all these elements come in.
So all these elements come in, and you had a hockey team, our team, that was made up of a bunch of, like I said, a bunch of guys that are just getting out of college or still in college.
Okay.
So you're talking 21 to 24-year-old kids, okay? And kind of what Clint was alluding to, the level of hockey in America at that time was not great. It would probably be on the equivalent of, and this is kind of the best analogy I could give, is because it was given back at that time, because back then, at that time, in the middle of a 6-year run, the Pittsburgh Steelers were winning 4 Super Bowls. Okay,
right.
So the analogy that the experts gave at that time was, imagine, if you will, if you took a bunch of college all-star football players from Canada, okay, that played American football from Canada, and put them together and made a team, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's about the equivalent of what our guys did.
Well, today's parallel would be like rugby. Like, America's good at rugby. We got really good athletes, but we're not competitive on the global landscape, right? So if all of a sudden a college all-star rugby team beat the All Blacks, beat the Wallabies, beat these predominant, like, it's on that level.
It's on that level, and so when this game was building, coming up, our team went into the Olympics hoping to finish. Maybe if they could get a medal, that would have been a victory.
Okay.
And so, because they were projected to be maybe 6th, 7th best team in the Olympics.
So they didn't even go in thinking that they had a shot.
No. But the thing is that they had this. I don't know how you describe Herb Brooks as a coach, but he was a
mad scientist.
But a guy,
but literally mad. So he's mad. He's a mad scientist.
Okay.
He was an angry mad scientist.
Okay, makes sense.
but just he was the definition of a coach. I mean, he knew which things to pull, which things to plug in.
And he didn't pick the best player in a position. He picked the player that fit.
Oh, the best.
So he's very
matchup.
Belichick-esque. He's very
gotcha.
Belichick in the sense that, like, hey, you're the best running back, but you're not the best running back for this system.
Sure.
You're not the best receiver for this quarterback. So he was playing 3-dimensional chess because he knew he had to.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree 100% that you would. So the 20 guys he ended up on the team weren't necessarily the 20 best guys in the nation. They fit his system.
Wow.
And he kept telling his team, though, for 6 months leading up to the games, they kept on seeing the Russians beat this team, that team, whatever, and just kill him. He says, somebody's going to beat those guys. He kept saying, somebody's going to beat those guys. And he kept on picking away at their armor too. You'd see videos of him. He'd make fun of them. You know, he'd make fun of the way they look. He'd say, "This guy looks like Laurel and Hardy." You know,
he'd make them hate him. Hate me more than you hate each other, so you can become a team, and then use that against the Russians.
What's that?
He's kind of breaking them down, kind of subliminally to his guys. Like that guy looks goofy, right? Like,
yeah, he was basically saying, "Hey,
take him."
It's like the old saying, "They put their pants on just like you and I do." He was kind of breaking them down to that level. Say, guys, don't be in awe of these guys. Yeah. They're going to get beat. They're going to get beat. You know, and so when the game came up, basically what happened was we were on two different sides of the draw. So the only way we were going to play each other was if we got to the medal round. Okay. So they took the two best teams from our draw and the two best teams from their draw. Okay, so there's two draws of about, I think, 7 teams, something like that. So we were one of the two best on our side, and they were one of the two best on their side. And we're going to play a semifinal game against them. Okay. So it wasn't for the gold, it was for a semifinal game. And again, going back to 1980, ABC was doing the Olympics. So at night they would do like 3 hours of the Olympics, whatever happened that day. And they asked the Russians, "Hey, can we switch this to prime time?" Because the game was going to be played in the afternoon, like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. So the stage is set. And the Russians said, "No way, we're playing it just like scheduled." Okay. Well, and because we didn't have, it wasn't like you had your iPhone and you had like up to the second scores. Nobody knew what was going on. This game's being played in Lake Placid, New York. And nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew a score, nothing like that. You didn't have that going on. But what they were going to do, ABC was going to show the game on tape delay when they showed it at night. So the game was going to probably start on TV shortly after it had really ended. Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't remember that.
No, I remember this because it's one of those things you remember where you were when you heard it. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sitting down we're getting ready to watch the game, and you got to remember the buildup of this was so immense that, as they said, nobody in America, most people weren't educated on hockey. Yeah. Because hockey wasn't like it was now. They didn't have a Dallas Stars team. They didn't have Arizona Coyotes. Right. I mean, everything was Canada or up in the Northeast. Okay. And so there were people from Texas sending, messages to the team, not knowing anything about hockey, but just saying, "Kick their ass," things like that.
You're our proxy to fight the evil Russians.
Yeah, this is a proxy to basically say, with all our bad things that have been going on and the Russians kicking our butt, we need this. Yeah,
lighting a fire.
And so I remember I was sitting downstairs. We're getting ready to watch the game, not knowing what the score is. My brother, who's older than me, the phone rings, and again, no cell phone, just our home phone rings.
Yeah, rotary dial.
Yeah. We had one. I don't even think we had voicemail or nothing like that at that time. Yeah. So he answers the phone. I remember it vividly. He's on the phone, and I could hear him talking to one of his buddies, and my brother said probably something along the lines like, "Are you kidding me? No, what are you talking? Really?" And he stopped talking. He looked at us, and he said, "The Americans just beat the Russians."
Oh, wow.
And you talk about just like for a second, we were like, my parents and I were just like, "What? What just happened?" And of course, that even made it more.
I got goosebumps.
It gave me goosebumps. Yeah. I mean, and it gives me goosebumps to this day.
It was 40 years ago.
40. It will be 41 in February. On February 20th, it'll be 41 years. Yeah. Wow. But so we knew going into watching the game, you knew what was going to happen, which was kind of fun. Yeah. You knew what was going to happen. But anyhow, won the game, and what we had to do was 2 days later win another game to win the gold medal, which we did. But I mean, some things that just that stand out to you about that is that it just transcends times. You remember that, and again, I keep saying this: it'll never happen again. You'll never see it again because Olympics aren't like that, or international play is not like that because international play, every country's best players play. Yeah. The captain of that team for the Americans, Mike Eruzione, he scored the winning goal. This is how much of an impression that was on him. He had the opportunity to go play in the NHL. He retired after that game. Oh my gosh. Or after that Olympics. Really? Because he said, "I'll never experience something like that again." Wow. So he didn't even play professional hockey. He hung up his skates.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you peak and you're just like, hey, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better than this.
And he's a 24-year-old guy, roughly, or something like that. So
yeah, that's crazy.
So-
You would
so-
pass all that up.
So, yeah, that thing. I mean, there's nothing that comes close to that. I mean, but I mean, there's a couple other things that stand out.
Yeah. But on an international level, it's kind of hard to beat that.
Telling you.
Yeah.
Well, and in the context of things, it's a tough
Yeah.
one. I mean, the and I love that this movie was made. As we sit here and talk about this and listen to, watching other people win can make you feel like a winner in a lot of ways, and it can encourage you to. So I think this winology needs to be kind of a repeating thing. So because we want to be faithful to our timelines. Like for me, winology, this is the miracle on ice, right? But a parallel to that I think is amazing that the story's getting told right now is the Jesse Owens story.
Yeah.
Just the significance of him beating the Germans in Germany in front of the Nazis, right?
What year was that?
36.
Oh wow.
It was incredible.
So it was right before the war.
Yeah.
So that's at the height of Hitler's Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Aryan nation.
It was a unimpeachable rebuttal of the Übermensch, his Hitler's theory, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's a signal of, hey, this guy's wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just a really well moved. It's a powerful movie. It's a story that needs to be
foreshadowing. As to
yeah,
the fall,
100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's like, and then there's a follow-on story, and then there's a one of the things I love talking about. I love talking about history, and one of the things I tell people is if you could interview a Nazi general right now, they would tell you that they lost World War II not because of the Allies, not because of Crete. Because they couldn't take Crete. They invaded it, but they never occupied it. And because they invaded and they couldn't occupy it, they didn't invade Russia on time. And if you're fighting in Russia, you're fighting two things. You're fighting the Russians and the Russian winner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you might beat the Russians, but you're not beating the Russian winner. So it delayed them, right?
Yeah.
And then the boxer, it was either the track athlete. I'm doing this a disservice. On the next winology, I'm going to be
Schmeling, you
accurate
mean,
at this.
or for Germany?
Yeah.
Or what? Max Schmeling?
So it was the first airborne assault in warfare history. They did an airborne assault on Crete, and Hitler put him on the front lines as an airborne officer to try to get him killed.
Schmeling?
Yeah, for
Why?
embarrassing him, for losing to Jack Johnson.
Joe Lewis.
Was it Dempsey or was it Joe Lewis, right?
Joe Lewis.
Joe Lewis, yeah.
Yeah.
And he made it through that airborne assault, but he was because remember after he lost, he raised his hand,
Yeah.
and the guy that Jesse Owens been raised his hand, and that's what I love about athletics. Athletics, like, hey, it's the purity of it, right? It's the purity of the sport, and I think that's got to be a motivation for you, especially when you're dealing with a great competitor, to get them back on the field to teach the fans and the kid about life.
Yeah.
Right? So winologies. So this needs to be a recurring show. And listeners, what I like, friends, I would love two things. I didn't do this on the last one, so I apologize. Share with us your greatest getting ready tip from the 80s.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
And then share with us a win that matters to you. And you said this before you turned the recorder on. It's powerful. I think Ross brought it up. It doesn't have to be a literal win. It can be a fictional win.
Yeah.
It could be the natural. The natural is,
Ooh, good
man,
reference, good
the
reference.
natural is incredible. The longest yard. I mean, that's a great one. I think it could be the win that you go back to, whether it happened in entertainment or in real life. Like, share that with us at the High Ground Network, which we're excited to release. You'll see that stuff soon.
Find us on YouTube. We'll be there shortly.
And the other stuffs and the
Yeah,
other
and
grams,
all the other platforms.
other grams. Dr. Gemas,
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. We'll see y'all
It's a
next
pleasure.
time.
winology.